Yeah, we had a lot of interaction with the boys when we used to play over here, cricket, and slides and seesaws and swings.
So you reckon the dormitory stood about here?
Yeah, it was about here. 2-story, upstairs were the bedrooms, and grown-ups stand that end, school kids stand this end. And downstairs was the kitchen, the dining room, and the matron had the office on the end of the veranda.
The Baramba Cherbourg Girls' Dormitory was built in 1925. It stood alongside the boys' dormitory and the mothers' home in the main street of Baramba. These new buildings replaced the old dormitories that housed many of our children since the beginning of the settlement. Under the 1897 Aboriginal Protection Act, we Aboriginal people were all wards of the state. The officials had powers to remove children from their families and place them in dormitories. Some of these children were genuine orphans. Some were removed for welfare reasons, the others for reasons of simple control. The children were cut off from their community, from their families, and from their culture. They just had to make the best of their situation. They created strong, lifelong bonds with the girls with whom they shared their lives, their clothes, their playtime, their dreams, their good times and their sadness. They became the family known as the Domo Girls. The Cherbourg Girls' Dormitory was closed in the early 1980s, and in 1998, the building burned to the ground. This was a shock to many and a relief to others. I spoke to Auntie Ruth Hegarty, one of the oldest surviving residents from the early days. She remembers the day she heard of the fire.
I can't even remember the year that was burnt down, but it upset us. It really, really upset us. Well, you know, your gut falls, you know, and you think, our home? How could anybody burn our home down?
I was standing there outside the hospital with everybody else, looking down at the dormitory burn down. And I was standing there looking, and I was saying, oh, you know, I was saying, and I shed a few tears, mind you. Yeah. And people were standing around me, and they were saying, oh, look at Joni crying there, la. I said, hey, that was my home, that.
So, well, I didn't really care much, but there was Carol Bond and Joan West. They were standing out there, we were watching it go, and they started crying then. Look at our old home is going up in flames.
Not seeing the dormitory, I got that feeling, I'm glad that big dormitory gone. And it brought back so many memories, you know.
Then this way we used to go swimming, then up with a crossing there, and down with a duck pond.
There's just swim across there, eh?
That used to be
Jump off the tree there.
Yeah, that was a bit deeper. We was always frightened to jump in here.
Swimming was a popular pastime for all in the settlement. It was one of the few places where the kids from the camp and the Domo kids could mix. In this picture, my mum Naomi is second from the left, enjoying a swim with other girls, including Betty Semple, the daughter of Cherbourg superintendent at the time. Here is my mum again, holding my cousin Nancy, standing in front of the girls' dormitory. Her mum, my nana, Nancy Chambers, was the house mistress of the girls' dormitory for many years. So although we lived up in the camp, as children we spent a lot of time at the dormitories. I was friendly with a few of the girls. It was strange because they were just like us, and yet they lived in such a different way. Crammed in wards, with strict discipline, always scrubbing the floors. Their lives were run by the bell.
Oh, we had heaps of fun down here. Yeah. Just got away from up there with all these rules and regulation, you know. Sort of do something to your mind, you know. And when you're down here, you're just a young, healthy young person, you know.
How it makes you feel now today?
Oh, I can't get over it, true. This is the first time since I come back, since I was a school kid.
Yeah.
And here's the duck pond down there.
Yeah, and it's got water in it.
No, it was law and order, even in the playground up there, but here it was our own little piece of mind.
Yeah.
You know, our own little place.
So you remember why you were in the dormitory?
I was 4.5 years of age when I came here to Cherbourg. And
Where did you come from?
We came from Idgeville.
I was brought here from Charleville and put in the dormitory when I was 9 years old, 1932. My mother already had another girl, another baby,
Yeah.
and she couldn't take two onto the station, so that she had to leave me there at the hostel, and then they didn't want us Aboriginal kids to stay there because, you know, the country people didn't want their kids mixing with us.
When they let Dad leave Warrabinda and took our sister Colleen with him, but wouldn't allow him to take us and left us three behind, and that devastated us three very badly.
Being a child, my awareness and consciousness was this was normal family life. I was in Cherbourg, I was in a dormitory, part of the dormitory girls, and every now and again I'd see my mother, but I didn't know she was my mother because she'd come and work in the dormitory, but then she'd be sent out to work.
Vera, Joe's mother, lived in the dormitory, separated from both Joe and her two sons, who were next door in the boys' dormitory. At 14 years old, all of us, boys and girls from the dormitories and the camp, were sent out to work in towns and stations across Queensland. Vera would do her 12-month contract and then return to the dormitory before being sent out on the next contract. As Joe says, it was only after many years that she realised that Vera was her mother. We didn't know then that there were dormitories like those in Baramba Cherbourg right across Australia. And we hear now about how there were similar places for Indigenous peoples all over the world, in the USA, Canada, New Zealand, South America. Like boarding schools without end of term holidays, the dormitories were run like military camps. Orders were there to be obeyed. Discipline was strict. Only English was spoken. The only religion, Christianity.
And that's Lena Gaston there.
So you remember that year when the wiring went up around the...
Yeah, then I was in when the wire got put up to that. And then we were just locked up all the time. We weren't even allowed outside the yard. When they open all the doors and that, you're just allowed to play in that yard.
Being strict, I suppose it was good for us. We grew up never ill-treated or raped or anything like that, you know. We had a good life in it, but it was still hard.
You couldn't answer back. If you answered back, you got a clip over the head or thrown in the jail. Couldn't say this, couldn't say that, don't do this, don't go here, don't go there. That's all you heard. And we envied you camp girls and boys. You know, when we used to see them walking around,
Yeah.
we used to think, oh, if only we could walk around like that. But we couldn't leave the dormitory unless we had permission. If anyone came down to us for the day, they had to get a permission to take us out for the day. We had to be back by a certain time.
Well, first when I went there, I had to scrub floors. You had to scrub up and down I had to scrub and had to make sure everything was all white. So the weekend cooked. I used to cook on the weekends.
And how long did you stay in the dormitory?
I don't know, a couple of years, but I think I was there for a while.
Yeah.
Tried to run away one time, but they locked me up. They had a little house there, what do they call it?
The jail at the back. So you had a taste of that jail too.
Yeah, they locked me up there. So I tried to run away.
I used to run away from the dormitory, and every Sunday, just about, and I was caught out, and Auntie Granny Nancy, she thought she'd teach me a lesson, and she put me in the jail. She put me in there, and they forgot about me. It was tea time, and I can hear everyone, you know, in the dining area. It was getting dark, and I was banging on the door then, screaming out, you know, let me out, let me out. And it's so scary because the girls used to tell us ghost stories, you know, about the spirits and things. And so one of the girls came out down the stairs, and she must have heard me because I put my lips in the keyhole, and I just screamed as loud as I could. And I saw her look up.
And I still sit and wonder today, why did they do that to us? Why did they treat us the way they did? Is it because of the way they were grown up to? Abused by these older women, called all these horrible names, but we never even understood what they meant. We just had to glance at a boy and we were called little sluts and moles, and we didn't know what that meant. We often, the women's prison there's in our backyard in the dormitory, and often there were women locked up during the night. I remember Sue Jones, she was locked up there, and they woke us up when they locked them up because you'd hear all the noise. And Granny Morty said, don't you girls go anywhere near that woman, she's got the pox. I think, what's the pox? You go over there and touch that door that she touched, you're going to get the pox. These are the things they did and said to us, put the fear of God in us as young children.
It's almost like you lived a life where there was so many hypocrisies and contradictions. Sent to church every day, you know, pray to God, wash me in the blood of the Lamb and I'll be whiter than snow. And there we'd be scrub, 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 you know, to appease God. But Jesus, loving the little children, were constantly told that. You're very lucky, very special, Jesus loved you. But if he loved us, why are we being tortured and traumatised every day of our life and told we don't belong, that we don't have anyone who loves us or cares for us?
The girls bonded with each other. They found sisterly love with those around them. Hardship and discipline taught them some of life's lessons. But there was no place for motherly love, for fatherly love, for family love. Young girls, some separated from their mums only by a fence or a wall, others cut off from their parents and families. Children left bewildered, hurt, angry.
So you would have wondered at times why your mum was right there and yet you couldn't be.
Well, my mum, I went to her one time with a problem. I don't know, it must be kids fighting, you know. And she said, oh, look, Joan, she said, they took it all out of my hands now. I can't do anything for you anymore. I would have been under 10 years old.
Yeah. Do you think that was a good thing or a bad thing? Or?
Yeah, I think it was a bad thing because they took people away from their families.
Yeah, it was pretty horrific for us, actually.
Yeah.
You know, if you're separated from your mother for any length of time, you begin to wonder, you know, if you're ever going to see your mum again.
Granny Morty had the house beyond the courthouse, and she sent a message up to the girls' dormitory for us to go down to her house. So we went down, me, Matthew and Scylla. And she had these ashtrays cut out of coconut shells made to look like monkeys. And we were fascinated by them. So we were sitting on the floor playing with the ashtrays, and there was this lady sitting on a chair with a little girl behind her. And Granny Morty sang out our names, and we turned around to look to see what she wanted. And she said, this is your mother here. And we looked at her. And then we went back to playing with the coconuts.
So it didn't worry you at all?
Didn't register, because to me, I didn't know you had to have a mother to exist. I thought it was just a token name you gave someone you liked, you know.
But that feeling about, like, mother, your mum not being there would have been still...
It's still with me today.
Yeah.
I've got abandonment issues, and I had it with her. We had our arguments. But in the end, you got to wonder, you know, things must have been bad for her to walk away from us. And that's all you can do, I suppose, wonder.
wasn't until I was 10 or 11 that I found out I actually had a brother, Derek, here. He was in the boys' domain. And I go, but aren't they all my brothers? No, this is your mother's Vera, and Vera had you and had Derek John. Oh, okay. So there was no family, no connection with the mother.
When the girls used to get a hiding, some of them, and they used to cry, Mama, Dada, Mama, Dad, and someone said, what are they crying for Dada for? We got no Dada here. We got no Dada. But that's...
Yeah. But I remember Auntie Maudie saying to us and the older women, I don't know what you're crying for them for, because that's why you're here. They dumped you. Nobody wanted you. Nobody cared. No one cares that you're here. That's why we have to look after you.
I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Gee, you want to see the craters in the face? That's beautiful.
Over those times when, like, you thought about what happened to you or being placed there, you ever blamed your mum?
Oh, definitely not. As I said, Mum had no choice in what she did. She couldn't say to them, oh, you can all go get, stuffed. I'm taking my children. No. Government just frigged up everything with Aboriginal people, and they're still frigging up with us. They put our family down as us, the children, right, as being neglected. The government made us neglected, not our parents. That's why they, when they send them out to work, right? So, she's not around, so these kids better go into the dormitory. They're neglected. We weren't neglected in the first place. It's what the government did to send out women and men out ringbarking, out on the stations, and that made us neglected. The government did that.
Generation after generation of young girls left to grow up alone, the only adults in their world. Often caring and affectionate women could not show them the love and attention they desperately needed. Generations of young girls soon to become women and mothers, so many of them not prepared for life in the outside world, not ready to bring up children and raise a family.
So you found it easy to love them and, get closer?
I'll tell you now, Auntie Sandra, I couldn't tell my children I loved them. Because we had no love. I thought love was nothing. We didn't know how to love our children. That's the one thing that ever think, my children taught me how to love.
When my children are grown, then they went to a foster home and they sort of grew up.
Yeah, it's kind of the same.
Yeah. The same cycle.
Yeah.
I think they sort of understand what it is. Like to me, I said,
they're not blaming you or anything.
No.
Yeah.
No, well, she just had her 60th, and her daughters were there, and
That's lovely.
and she gave a little speech, and she told them that she was sorry for what happened to them, and it was very sad, and but they said, Mum, Mum, we still love you. You're our mum.
Despite all that they went through, many of the Domo girls went on to lead full and successful lives. Some with university degrees went on to work in education, health, in government ministries, in the church, others becoming writers and researchers, yet others, mothers and wives. These women developed survival strategies to find normality in a world that was so stacked against them.
Well, my husband was English and he was white. He didn't know anything about the Indigenous people of Australia.
He didn't know you were Indigenous?
No, he didn't, because I didn't tell him. So in those days, we used to keep it a secret. It was the only way we used to get on, living with the white people. And it hurt me to do that, because I was ashamed to do it. And people used to think I was from, I don't know why they chose Maoris over our indigenous people to like, you know. They used to like Maori people. So I used to say I come from New Zealand.
So did he ever find out that you were
Yes.
Indigenous?
Yes, he did, after a while. I told him. And where it really showed me that he cared was in the year 2000 when they had that big march across the Sydney Harbour Bridge. He saw me with tears in my eyes, and when we saw the march, everyone holding hands, you know, it was a really good, wonderful sight to see that, you know. And after all the racist taunts and that we used to get from in Mergen, you know, going to the pictures, even though we were kids, they were calling us monkeys. You little monkeys, you stay there, you know, don't you come in the back seats and things like that. And there they were marching across the bridge. And my husband, he had tears in his eyes.
Yeah, I decided to run away when I was 13 because I didn't like the way we were being treated here in the mission. I got embarrassed about my Aboriginality because of what they wrote in our school books. I remember reading in one of our social studies books, the buff-coloured old books, we all had one each. There were 2 sentences referring to Aboriginal people in Australia, that we were savages and barbarians, and that we were uncivilised. And I was ashamed of that fact, but that was only that nobody taught us to be strong about who we are.
When I left Cherbourg, we went into Ipswich, and I went to a white school, and that was all white, and there was no Cherbourg family to come home to. There was this white school teacher that hated my guts. She said, "You dirty, filthy blacks should go back to where you belong. You're even lower than the dogs." She used to throw chalk and duster at me and tell me to get out of the classroom. I was, what, 13? I was sitting there going, what's she talking about? There was a good side to that story. All them white kids in the school, in the classroom, they'd bring in lollies, they'd bring in ice blocks, you know. They'd share all their lunch with me. So I was gay. On the one end, I was being abused and brutalised. On the other hand, I was being taken care of. So there was a nice little balance there. But as a kid growing up, you just get, you wonder, is there something wrong with me? Maybe they were right back in the mission, you know, in the dormitory, that nobody wanted me and there was something wrong with me. That's why I don't belong, and I never felt like I belonged anywhere, connected to anyone.
After leaving here and you experienced a lot of things and opened your eyes, so how did that help you in life later on?
Yeah, well, when I went away from here, I felt like I had a complex. You know, I couldn't look people in the face. I just didn't know how to talk, how to communicate. I just didn't know how to just be myself.
For many of the women, being brought up in the dormitory created deep wounds that even decades later are still needed to be healed.
We all grew up together.
Many women still struggling today, bearing that deep hurt. Some have gone to their graves, never managing to heal, never finding peace in this world. In the last few years, government and many organisations have come forward to help the survivors of the dormitories, providing context for people to begin personal and group healing.
As long as we're together, whoop, she goes again. Here we are again, happy as can be. All good pals and joy good company. Hip, hip. Hooray! Hooray!
You know, once upon a time I couldn't talk about these things. Going to university, learning a lot of stuff. One of our assessments was we had to write something on ourselves, and I used to be up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I would only manage maybe to get a paragraph done because all the other time was spent crying about the past. But I realised that once that happened, that was the best medicine, because you're getting it off your chest. Even though you might not be talking to somebody, you were getting it off your chest, you were getting it out of your system, all these pent-up feelings of hurt from when you were growing up. And having that question unanswered, why?
I had help about 15, 16 years ago, because I thought I was, well, I suppose you could say close to a breakdown. It was like an emptiness here, Sandra, like a loss, like a loss, and didn't know who you belonged to.
Trying to find connection to family. It was like a jigsaw puzzle, finding pieces here and there.
Trying to connect, to
put in those
the pieces into place.
Yeah.
I'm still a Waka Waka womanist, but I know my grandmother's tribe now. And I'm proud of that, Sandra. Proud to know where I belong, but this is home and it'll always be home to me.
We'll ring each other up every day, talk about our past and everything like that. And I even went to a psychiatrist, to see if they could help me, but it's all in here, It's hard for me to get rid of it.
So you feel better about talking today? You didn't want to, you ducked back from the camera.
Duck back in there.
No.
But do you feel better, letting it all out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And at least I'm talking to somebody that I know.